Welcome back to Talk of the Town, and I'm joined now by one of our news partners, and that is the South Central Library System. I'm joined by Mark today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And today we're talking about library funding.
Yes.
And this is something I don't know a ton about, so I'm interested to kind of learn more. I kind of know the general concept that, public libraries are free to use for everybody to use, but they do cost money to operate. So where does that funding come from?
Well, that's a good question. And library funding comes from a number of places. Primarily, it's from the local municipality that sponsors the library. So whether that's a city, a village, or a township, that's where most of the budget for the library comes from. And then in addition to that, there is funding from every county that it provides to its own library. So in a particular county, when they serve residents that live out in the rural areas or in communities that don't have a library, the county reimburses those libraries for that use. So it's basically by circulation formula. So the counties are providing funding to local municipal libraries also, and that's a smaller part. In addition to that, then, if residents in one county choose to go to another county that is adjacent to them, there is funding that follows from one county to libraries in an adjacent county. And that's a separate part of state statute, and there's funding there. And that's, again, a smaller part of library funding. And then on top of that, there is money from the state that comes as system aid, and system aid provides a number of resources. There are some grants, there are some reimbursements and things that come to libraries. And then the last would be federal funding. There are some grants and reimbursement programs, not a lot, but there is some that help fund libraries. So it's a real mixture of where money comes from, but most of it's local.
Sure. And I'm sure it's a lot of information for viewers too. So kind of just to recap that and break it down. So if you do live in a rural area, you can use a library in
Yes. In Wisconsin has a philosophy of open access to libraries for everyone. And so there are mechanisms in place to ensure that counties also participate. So municipalities sponsor the library, the counties fund through in-county reimbursement for actual usage. And also some counties go above and beyond that by setting up separate funds. So they may target technology in libraries, or they may target youth literacy or summer library program or special projects where they just set money aside. And then also adjacent counties, again, reimburse. So that's a way to ensure that no matter where you live or work or your children go to school, you can use the library that's most convenient for you, and there will be funds that come from the county to help support that because there are costs associated with providing that service. So it is a real equitable service in Wisconsin.
Now you said the state chips in too.
The state chips in too. The state of Wisconsin does fund libraries a little bit differently than some states.
Sure.
Primarily, the state funds libraries in Wisconsin through Public Library System Aid. And in 2016, that's about $15 million. And that $15 million is divided among the 17 library systems. It's not divided equally. It's divided on a formula that's based on population and area and things like that. And so that's the primary resource from the state, and that funds a lot of the resources that systems provide, things that libraries need but they can't do themselves, technology services, the online catalog delivery, all those kinds of things. The state also helps provide various resources through the BadgerLink, badgerlink.net, and a lot of online resources. So there's genealogy databases, resources that you can use to research your genealogy. There's like car care databases, there's consumer reports, all those kinds of things the state provides through badgerlink.net. They also fund resources like Talking Book Library and Braille Library for those that have vision impairment. They can go online and get those resources. And also Cooperative Children's Book Center at UW, which is a resource for librarians and teachers about books for children. And also state funding helps provide broadband for libraries, the internet access that libraries use statewide. So that's where state money goes.
And I know we were talking about a little bit off camera, just my experiences with libraries and how my childhood pretty much, revolved around the library and being a part of the summer programs that you mentioned. Sure. And those were some of the things I looked forward to the most. And growing up too, public libraries are just such a great tool for people to have, and a lot of people, may not utilize it as much as they could, and it's important to keep that around for future generations. So how can we ensure that the libraries do stay around.
Well, and it is very important, and one of the things that we should do is people should use the library on a regular basis. They should encourage their family members to use the library, friends, regardless of where those people live. If they're in your local community or if they're in other states, they should be encouraging that use. Share stories about why that library use is important to you and what it means for your family, with your family and friends. And more importantly, share that information with your local and all your elected officials, because as they're making budget decisions, they need to hear from people why this resource is important and why it's valuable to them. So that's a real key thing. And finally, go to your library director in your community and ask, is there something I can do to help? Because there's a lot of opportunities, or they may have initiatives where you can step forward and help because of your belief in the value of libraries.
Awesome. Great stuff today. Thank you so much for being here today,
You're
Mark.
welcome. Thank you. Appreciate
Well,
it.
I have to give a shout out then with what you said to the Holman Library and the La Crosse County Library, both great places. So shout out to my hometowns. Talk of the Town will be back right after this.